that's kind of the goal, just to know exactly where every single dollar is going so that we can, tell them where to go instead of wonder where it went. We tell our staff all the time, you may not be parents, but you help parent hundreds of kids, and you get a lot of experience from that, and can listen better to other people that are not their parents. And it's important to, keep that in mind. We don't value clothes, but we value a nice house, but we don't value a big house. So making those decisions, I think, and just knowing where you're going to save the money and where you're going to spend it has helped us get through it.
Hey, everybody. Jennifer Waters here on the Seven Figure Secrets podcast. I'm joined by my dad, Tommy Siegler, and our special guest today, Seth and Melanie. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yes, thanks for having us today.
Yeah, super pumped, super pumped. So for those of you guys who don't know Seth and Melanie, they're a little bit of a powerhouse couple. They've got a lot going on. They've got 800 students with Star Martial Arts, 3 locations in Northern Indiana, 20 team members. They've already been nominated 3 times in a row by the ATA for the top 3 schools. 5 different occasions for the top 3 schools. And they've also worked towards unbelievable financial freedom. They've achieved essentially financial retirement in their early 30s, and they're debt-free, net worth over $6 million, and have family as well. And Melanie's a Christian life coach. Seth is also kind of dipping his toes in and helping other martial arts school owners achieve financial freedom, time freedom. So yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about your story, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's remarkable the story you guys have. So I want to find out more. Can you walk us through your journey towards financial freedom? Because everybody's wanting to know how in your 30s you were able to accomplish such a task, and it is a task. That's for sure. I'm in my late 60s, and of course, Jennifer's in her 30s. We're on our way, but we ain't there yet. But we're just excited because we want to learn some stuff from you guys. So let's go. Somebody talk.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that, I don't know, made our path different than most business owners or other people's, we just started with the goal of financial retirement, I think, really early on. It's something that most people start thinking about, how should I invest in my retirement plan in my 40s or, things like that. And when we got married, we just, got on the same page. And, the age of, I was 24, she was 21. And we just said, we want to be out of this rat race as quick as possible. So everything we did was kind of planned around that goal to become debt-free early, to maximize our retirement accounts, to not increase our lifestyle. I know the term, I think that's popular right now, is DINKs, for dual income, no kids. And we sat in our DINK phase for a little bit longer than most, for about 10 years, and just really poured everything into becoming free.
Yeah, like I remember as we were going through it, like it wasn't really sexy, I think a lot of people like chase like the big idea or the new thing, and it was just very much like a consistent, right? It's just all the things that we already know, right? Of budgeting and investing, even just, a little bit each month, and then that all adds up. And so, when people ask us as far as like the practical stuff, I'm like, well, it's not really sexy. It may not be what you would think, but it's just consistent little steps. Just stay in the path. And
yeah, I think, increasing net worth, there's absolutely the way of, having these absolute windfall years, where if you hit those $1 million marks, and that's awesome. We've had those too, but the biggest thing has just been our simple budget meetings. We have a budgeting time every month that we've done since we got married. And we do that both with our personal and our business, even now with Melanie out of the business, we still do that with our COO. And we've gotten to the point where, even though between our schools, we're running a near multi, 7-figure business, we're within $100 to $1,000 of our expected budget by the end of the month, by the end of the year. And that's kind of the goal, just to know exactly where every single dollar is going so that we can, tell them where to go instead of wonder where it went. Do you remember who said that?
Dave Ramsey.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
it sounds like to me you're on the Dave Ramsey plan, but on steroids.
We certainly were in a season, right? Like in our 20s where we chose not to have a family. Like honestly, we didn't know that we ever wanted a family. And so, when you have all that energy, and I still have a lot of energy, but even more energy, and you put it all in your business and you put it all in your dreams, it does add up.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
I think we spent a lot of time in our early years where we were putting in, 60 hours to I think we had weeks where it was 80 hours, each of us. And so, some of it too isn't just that, we did something smarter or better. It's just we put in double, triple, quadruple the amount of work into our business that, most single operators might, because there were two of us and we were able to support each other and feed off of that. And I think that was really important.
Yeah. I think a lot of people really see that shiny object. They really want to go after that shiny object and upgrade their lifestyle. How hard was that for you guys, in your 20s doing that? How hard was it for you guys to avoid upgrading your lifestyle so you could still just keep putting that money back? Like, did you get any pushback from family members or anything like that as well?
Do you want to hit that one?
So sorry, we lost connection there for just a second.
Yeah.
So your question was like,
what? As you guys were trying to, do this like in your 20s and starting to have that really like, we're not upgrading our lifestyle. Did you have pressure from friends, from family? Like, oh, it's not going to hurt. You guys could go out. You could go on vacation. You could do this. Like, talk a little bit about that.
Okay, yeah. Well, honestly, like I think that's the beautiful thing about a budget is we were able to go on really cool vacations. Like we had goals. We had big goals. They were just not impulsive. They weren't right here, right now. It was, okay, next year we want to go to Europe. Okay, like how much does that cost? Okay, like, and then you kind of just plan backwards. And so I guess it never felt like it
never felt restrictive. Yeah. One of the things that people are so scared of the word budget, and we really need our budget because it gives us freedom. It tells us how much we can spend and where and when we can spend it. One of the stories that we usually tell our staff is we remember one trip we went to Hawaii and we had our budget and we just kind of, went out and did some things that we didn't originally plan on. So it came to the end of our vacation and we wanted to go to this restaurant. We're like, well, we've got $400 left in our food budget for the entire month. Do we want to go to this fancy restaurant or do we want to eat when we get home? And we're like, we want to go to the fancy restaurant. So, we ate, peanut butter, for like a week after we got home after having this amazing vacation. And, did we need to do that? Absolutely not. But what I think it did is instilled some confidence within us so that, now that we don't have financial constraints, when we want to make purchases, we never feel like we didn't have the discipline to do it. So we had a vacation for our anniversary to go to Bora Bora, and the COVID testing was a nightmare. It's the whole thing if you guys traveled during that time. And we ended up having this choice where we said, do we skip our honeymoon, or do we buy these last minute plane tickets, across the world because we missed our other plane tickets because of a COVID test. And I don't think we would have had the confidence to say, no, let's go ahead and purchase this, this crazy multi-$1,000 oops expense for the COVID if we hadn't, to show ourselves that we had the discipline to do all the things for so many years prior. It didn't feel impulsive, even though it was an emergency. And I think that confidence is really important.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of apps that people also use, for budgeting and things like that. Anyone that you guys favor or that you recommend for people?
I mean, we're Ramsey people from when we were younger. So I love Every Dollar. It's a free tool. You can, pay a yearly fee to connect it to your bank account and get all the education that comes along with it. Melanie's familiar with You Need a Budget a little bit as well and has enjoyed that app. But I don't think it matters which one you use as much as it just matters doing something. I think doing something is 90% of the battle.
Yeah, we use You Need a Budget in our businesses, actually. So we converted the personal side of it to being able to use it as a business budget, which I know it's not necessarily intended for that, but there's just a huge difference there in knowing, okay, these are all the payroll, this is the budget for payroll. This is that, we have everything set aside, as opposed to doing just a standard P&L or an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. So yeah, I think it's really cool how you guys have been able to do that. And what would you say is something that you would recommend? Like, I don't know, what was your first step? Like, did you guys already separate? Were you guys like going, okay, we're going to do a budget? Or is that something when you got married, you were like, oh, we're going to do a budget?
Say that was a long time,
right?
I think it's just part of dreaming together. I think some people come into marriages as two individuals and they figure out how to, like, there's this kind of period where they're like, oh my gosh, how do we do life together? And I think we had premarital counseling. We had some time where we worked together prior to being married, and we were just able to kind of set those goals first before. So there was no panic mode. It was always this is the goal for both of us. It aligns up. So absolutely, if we do it together, we can pull more. We can be the Clydesdale horses where 2 + 2 = 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely like the beginning with the end in mind, right? We both had big goals and big dreams. And so it's like, okay, let's put that on paper. And then, okay, like, what does that mean for me? Like, what is the first step, right? It was just really planning backwards and then just baby steps and just following the plan.
Yeah, maybe reverting back to your original question, I don't think that we got a lot of pushback because we were able to do things we wanted to do, but we just didn't want to do everything. We don't value vehicles, but we value vacation and we value food. We don't value clothes, but we value a nice house, but we don't value a big house. So making those decisions, I think, and just knowing where you're going to save the money and where you're going to spend it has helped us get to the right spot.
I love how you said that. That was really cool. So Melanie, like now you're not working in the school, you're working as a Christian life coach. Is that right? Like Yeah. So what are some of the challenges maybe that you're encountering or mindset shifts? Maybe it's even around budgeting that your clients are experiencing and how are you helping them in their life? Look into that.
Yeah. Well, everything that I help my clients with now is something that I went through before. And so I think that's one thing that makes me a really great coach is because I truly, honestly get it, right? There's no shame in it because I'm like, I totally get it. And so, I'm just naturally a very driven, passionate, type A, love control type of person. And so naturally I attract those kind of people. And so I think some of the biggest challenges that was for me and now with women that I help that are the same way, they have this passion, this drive. It's so counterintuitive in that, so many times I'll come from I and say, I believed, right? You got to force, you got to push, you got to, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. You got to like white knuckle it, right? And that is so great. And so many times we can get that out of balance. And so I think the number one biggest mindset shift is to embrace grace, like grace for yourself. And if you were to tell me that when I was first kind of starting my personal growth journey, I would have just scoffed at it. But really, like, learning to give yourself grace, it allows you to give other people grace, but also it just gives you the motivation, the resiliency to the energy to move forward and to fail and to get up and start again. And so it's kind of this mindset shift of it's not about, grinding through. And that's important too. But without the balance of the grace, we just burn out. We just get down on ourselves, which actually just kind of stops everything, slows everything down. And I mean, let's be honest, type A women don't like to slow down. And so we like to go fast. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge and mindset shift. And then, the other one, I call it the moving finish line. And I know I experienced where it's like, okay, we love to set goals. We love to dream. And so sometimes we attach feelings to those dreams, meaning, okay, I will feel more at peace when I get XYZ or when I hit this goal and then when you get there, it's like, oh, that was kind of, a letdown because you didn't do the internal work. We kind of work from the outside in. And so really working with the mindset of, you have capacity to have peace, to have joy, to have all the things right now, even if your circumstances kind of stink. You can, right? You are enough now just as much as you're going to be when you get that goal because you're not that goal, right? You are enough now. And so just working from the inside out, those two shifts, I would say, are the biggest things. And they actually help you run faster and go after.
That's cool. That's really good.
Thank you.
I hope anybody's listening to this because this is very great wisdom here. So Seth, for you, I want to find out for martial arts school owners out there, for people like me and Jennifer and the people that we coach, in 7FD, what are some of the common misconceptions or roadblocks that you feel they would face while trying to build a successful business in this industry, in this martial arts industry? What are some of the things that you went?
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously with any industry, there are a lot of pitfalls, but one of the things that I think we consistently see with our clients and with our friends and for ourselves as we were going through it, I would say the first one is the shiny object syndrome. Really trying to chase down the extra dollar by doing something that's not in their vision. There is nothing wrong with the schools, who want to do all the after school programs, the dance programs, and, aftercare and all that. That's great for the ones who have passion for it. But what we've seen is a lot of people who chase the dollar versus the dream. And then because it's not their passion, it fizzles out. I think, coming along with that, there's this idea that once I get there, that I'm going to be there. And I think people are willing to sprint to what they think is the finish line without realizing that that's the starting line. And the amount of money, effort, staff, whatever it takes to get to a school, that runs 7 figures or has, 100, 200, 500, 1,000 students, the amount of energy that it takes to get there is not any less than the amount of money that it takes to maintain it, the amount of stress and energy that it takes to maintain it. And I think people burn themselves out trying to get to a goal, and then they reach it and think I can take my foot off the gas, and then everything crashes pretty quickly. I don't know what you guys see with your clients, but we see a lot. People do really well in the first year and a half. They generally can really push if they've got some business training to get to that 150 student mark maybe. And then the first round of taxes comes through, or the first time that, the parents start to quit, the first time their contracts start to end and they have to refill it. Those are all things where they just go, oh, I didn't realize I had to keep doing this. I thought I'd done.
Yeah, we see that a lot. The biggest thing, one of the big things with us is that, martial arts is our passion. We know how to do martial arts. We know how to get out on the mat. We know how to teach. We know how to inspire people. When it comes to the business side, like for us, the business side, I've been in the martial arts for 54 years. I've been on the mat teaching for forever. So I didn't know the business side when I got going. And once I moved to Augusta, Georgia, I had my system and everything, but I didn't know how to do the business. And I taught for 25 years when I came here and never made a dime. And then all during that 25 years, she was growing up.
And not all of the 25, just to be clear.
When she was about 17 is when I was in construction. That I was in that for 30 years. And when she was about 17, we made a decision that she needed to be the one to move forward because I couldn't do both things at one time. I was working full-time construction, teaching martial arts at night, and doing side jobs on the side just to keep everything going. So she was the catalyst that pushed out there and got the training. And then we took the skills that we knew and we applied them to what we were doing. And that's a lot of what our clients are going through. And one of the problems that like I said, that they face is the business side, which is we take failure and we make stepping stones out of it so we can climb that mountain. And that's what we're doing with them.
No, absolutely. I think it's really tough in our industry. And it's why, I think consultants are so needed and necessary, because people become martial arts school owners because they like teaching. And, within our schools, when someone says, oh, I love teaching, I want to be a school owner, we say, no, you don't. You love teaching. You want to be an instructor. You want to be maybe a manager, but you definitely don't want to be a school owner because we don't teach. That's not what we do anymore. If you like doing taxes and advertising plans and marketing structures, then you want to be a school owner. But teaching is not what a school owner, does at a high level. So
right.
I think you guys are doing great work, and yeah, it's definitely needed.
Yeah. Melanie, with some of the things that you're doing, and this is also what I could say some school owners run into, but I'm sure, you're doing coaching now with women primarily, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I know as a woman, and just women in general, they face a lot of limiting beliefs, negative self-talk, all those types of things. Obviously, there's the pressures of just being a woman, being a mom, and then you add on business to it. And so there's a lot going on there. If there's a lady who's listening to this, what are some things that you are coaching your clients to do on a regular basis to stop that negative talk and actually move forward in their lives? What does that look like?
Yeah. So we have several coaching tools that it all starts in our thoughts. It's all the root, right, is all between our own ears. And I think many times we can try to address symptoms rather than the root, right? We can try to address time management or, the people factor, right? And yes, those are certainly symptoms, but it all starts in our brain, right? Between what we're thinking about.
Yeah.
And so there's several coaching tools, if you will, on just how to start thinking about what you're thinking about. And so I think like just awareness is usually where we start. We just kind of like, okay, brain dump, ladies, like just put it all down there, right? We're going to pick one out. And then, okay, how is that thought leading to the result that you're getting, right? Like that's the whole first part of my program is let's just do some inventory inventory here of the results that you've had, some good, some bad, not good or bad, just is it what you want or not? And then let's start like looking at the thoughts that led to that. And we can either, I say it's simple, but not always easy. Okay, so if you don't like that thought, or is that true, right? Like, what could be another thought? Like, let's just start to be aware and start thinking about it and start trying on some new thoughts, and then see, what result that leads to. That is a very high level kind of concept of what we do on a really nitty gritty basis. But it really is, like I said, simple, not always easy though, right? Because some of these thoughts, you've got years and years and years of evidence to prove it, right? How our brain works. And so
bias. Yeah.
Right. And so it's just constantly questioning it, challenging it, and as a Christian life coach, right, we talk about like, okay, where is that coming out of the Bible? Is that, what we would call true? And so really just digging in and doing what I call like your own internal work. And it's amazing what women are truly capable of. And once they give themselves the permission to do it and to be it.
Yeah. Have you had instances where, once these ladies are able to kind of do that easy but hard thing, that they start either getting better relationships or improving their finances, or like, what are some of the things that you see maybe in stepping stones of what happens first?
Sure. Well, yeah, I think I alluded to it earlier, but I'm all about like inside out work, right? Like it all starts inside. The cool thing about that is that when you address it internally, no matter where you show up, you're going to see it externally, if that makes sense. So as you start to really challenge your own identity and what you think about you and the relationship you have with yourself, and it's in a positive, right? You shift it to positive, it's just going to overflow. So it overflows as a mom, right? Like I'm able to give my kids grace because I can now give myself grace. I'm able to give my husband grace. I'm able to give team members grace. And so I think the biggest results that I see are right now we're on this marriage kick. Like a lot of clients are just coming and they're struggling with marriages. And so kind of those shifts in those relationships, but also learning to enjoy all the success, right? So many times we push and we grind and all that. And it's like, am I even enjoying this process? Am I even enjoying the work that I do? Am I even getting fulfillment out of it? And so being able to enjoy the people, the results, the lifestyle you have, like all those tiny moments are the things that bring the biggest joy. Did that kind of answer your question, or not?
Great. For sure.
Great.
Yeah. I think that's huge. And Dad, I know you have some more questions here for Seth and what he's doing in the schools.
Yeah. So Seth, 800 students. I mean, the highest we got at one time was 600, and then we imploded because we didn't have the things in place that we needed in place. Now we have those in place. We're still putting things in place. Of course, you never end on that. But when you think about how you scaled your schools, give us an idea of some of the things you had to go through in order to understand how to scale your school, and some of the things you had to stop doing.
Yeah. I think the first step, and this is something Melanie was really great at, it was probably the biggest, fingerprint that she left in our business, was starting to create the systems manual, having the concept of everything we do, someone should be able to replace you, making sure our team understands, you are absolutely valuable as a human. We can never replace you. But if you quit, or if you died, or if you get married or have to leave, whatever, like you don't want all the students to suffer for that. We have to be systemized enough that someone can interchange in those roles. So making sure that as much as possible, people know what's expected of them, how those tasks get done. I think that's the big foundation of what we had to do. I think the big pitfalls that come along with that then are people who hold on for too long, or people who let go too early. I think those are the two dynamics that we see. People who are so excited because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted. I've been teaching for 15, 20 years. Like I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Go ahead, 16-year-old, run with it. And that it implodes, maybe it lasts for a couple years, that team member quits, and then you have to start all over. And again, that's all coming out of experience from us. We did the same thing. We let go of our business a little bit too early the first set, had a staff walk out, and had to recover from that. And I think letting go too early is one of the big things that people do. And the other one is letting go too late, expecting perfection, expecting it to rise to to the same level that they were at before letting go. And then the team members who are anxious and ready, they leave early because they want the responsibility. They want to try to step up. I know one of the toughest things that we did in our second group of staff after that first one, we had some issues with, is when we trained everyone on the systems, we said, okay, we're going to let them do it. And we had some really great coaching from Kiyoshi Kovar. You guys know him. He's awesome. And him and Mr. Chamberlain just said, you should expect your staff to do 80%. So if you are truly stepping out, like expect your numbers to fall, it will go to 80%. So we kind of set our parachute number and said, okay, we are not going to step in. We're not going to save it until it drops below 80%. And we stepped out of the business, and for 4 or 5 months, our numbers started to tank. And it was panicky. It's like watching the stock market go down. And you're never supposed to pull out of the stock market, but it doesn't mean you don't want to. But we had great coaches. We had each other. We held on tight, and right at 81%, it leveled out and then started to build from there. Now, does that mean our team is perfect? Absolutely not. When we were running the schools with each other, we had about 1,000 students between us. And now that, we're out of it, we have 800. So it's right at that 80% mark. And it's just kind of a mix of having high expectations of our team without having unrealistic expectations of our team. If they were, wanting to put in the hours, the effort, the entrepreneurship that we did, they probably wouldn't be working for us. They'd probably be opening up their own school. And it's a win-win for both us and our team members when we don't expect them to be business owners, because they're not for a reason. And that's in both their benefit and our benefit. So we can work together with each other's strengths rather than having that expectation that's not healthy.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's important too. Tell us about, there's 2 parts to the school as we break it down. There's the business side and there's the math side, the teaching side. And it's easy to keep it separated or bring it together. Let's talk about the math side, the teaching side. How do you get instructors? Do you get them outside of your school? Do you grow them? How do you train them? Are you training them on an ongoing basis now? What are the things that you do with them?
Yeah, great question. We try to home grow our instructors. Obviously, that's not always possible. One of the benefits of being a part of a larger organization like ATA is when we do need to hire outside, there are some, options where we can say, they have the same curriculum, more or less. They have the same upbringing and values, more or less. So that culture shift isn't quite so jarring as if we're trying to hire, a jiu-jitsu guy to a taekwondo school. There's just a little bit of a difference there in what our jiu-jitsu instructors are very like California. And, taekwondo is very strict. Like there's a reason for every belt, every stripe, there's a timeline, and jiu-jitsu doesn't seem to be like that in our experience. So if we take a person from outside the culture, there's a lot of training on the culture that has to be done. So I think hiring within school is always best when possible. Hiring within organization would be our next trial. We've tried hiring outside of that before. We've never had great success with it. Doesn't mean it's not possible, but it's definitely a harder journey.
Yeah.
We weigh a lot of training with our team. We start them in assisting with classes, when they're as young as 7 or 8 years old and they learn how to be assistants. We have different, expectations for what they should do in class to build rapport, to talk to parents, to keep the school clean. We move them into we call it University of Martial Arts, a legacy program. Teachers in training are all things that, terms that you might hear. And we work with them once a week for about an hour 15 every week to just make sure that they're getting education on personal development, on how to teach great classes, how to talk to parents, and how to improve their technique. So that's something that I will still float between the schools to give them little touch-ups for that. And then within our staff, we do weekly staff training, both on the business and the mat end for an hour and a half each. And then we try to follow that with a quarterly offsite where we can really meet together and get extra, training and together time, and yearly, state of the school, like full 8-hour day meetings where we will do training on curriculum unification, making sure that we're teaching things in the same way with the same words, so that the goal is for any school to send an instructor to a different school and no one notices that there's a difference other than obviously the personal relationship that's missing.
Sure. Now, you guys have different operations managers, or is there one central operation manager running the 3 schools?
We do have a COO who's in charge of really a lot of the interpersonal issues that happen between our staff, making sure that they can work together, that tasks they promise to get done will actually get done, because instructors are phenomenal instructors, and it's because they don't like to sit down and do tasks. But that's part of the instructor side sometimes. So she does a lot of just making sure that the operations are getting done the way they're supposed to, making sure our budgets are in line. And then every school will either have its own manager or a managing team member, one program director, one chief instructor, or a singular person who does both roles, and they're in charge of all their junior staff.
Sweet.
Got it.
You guys got it going on.
Yeah. So Melanie, when did you step out? Like, how long have you been doing the coaching and all that?
I stepped out. I always joke with Seth, I stepped out at the perfect time. I stepped out in November of 2019. So
right
I
before.
didn't have to deal with any of the stuff Seth had to deal with when it came to COVID, like just a lot of the things. Like, I came out at the perfect time. We actually, in 2019, adopted our son from Korea. And so it was just a really, just a transition of, okay, like it was a clean break, if you will. Not to say I don't help, but from a different role, different perspective.
Yeah. And kind of speaking of kids, so how are you guys like managing two different businesses? I mean, you started off in one business together, right? So now you're running two completely different businesses and still having kids and being able to run these businesses. So what does family life look like for you guys?
Yeah. I just recently, probably in the last 6 months, have really, I guess, just given myself permission and own that I just do best with a lot on my plate. Of course, there's seasons, right, of rest and there's seasons, but just, I think the pace, I just like to run at a faster pace. And not to say that that's right or that's wrong, but that's when I'm at my best. And so we also have twin 2-year-olds that we just adopted in February. And so it's just, I feel like when I'm able, I have my work time and I can be focused on work, and then I have my kid time and I can be focused on kids. And so, is there anything that you'd add to that? Like,
I mean, I think between the two of us, it's a lot of communication, who isn't part of the kid time. When are we going to schedule together time? When are we tagging out the partner to split up? When do we, you take the boys, I'll take the girls, and we'll do, that piece. But like Melanie said, I think it's really important that we kept time for us to work and to work on our goals, because it's really easy, I think, to lose your identity to your children. And I think that's something that we've been very protective over, our personal identities, our marriage identity as a husband and a wife. And then, and we have kids. And it's not to say that the kids are not important, but I think that their life is much more stable when we are not relying on their moods and whims or how old is going to run, because they're two, they're going to cry no matter.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, we have that in common. So I adopted, my husband and I, we adopted our son from China. It's been about 6 years now, or it'll be our 6th year. And so I remember that adjustment period. He didn't speak English.
Yep.
He didn't speak Mandarin. I'm sure you guys are kind of going through that and have been through that. Like, what was that challenge like, running the business and then also having not just a child, but having an adopted child that can't even communicate in the same way that you would with a domestic child here?
Yeah. Man, is it humbling.
Yeah.
So humbling. I mean, I always joke, our 6-year-old is now he's in martial arts now, and we don't teach. And so he was telling me I was doing my high block wrong. And I'm like, listen, you have no idea who you're talking to. It is just so humbling. And I think just on a logistics standpoint, I remember I'm all about owning your season. And so like just this Q1, quarter one of this last year was when we brought him home. And it was like, okay, this season, my priority is, right, like kids get to take number one, because we have a lot of attachment going on. I need to be more patient. That's going to require a lot more of me. And then, yes, like I need my outlet. So I had a business goal, right? And then like just a personal fitness goal. And so I think my mantra was all about doing less, but doing it better, right? Like, okay, it's not about fitting it all in, but it's actually about what can I let go of? And like, what are my priorities? And it's like, okay, this season, it doesn't have to be forever, but in this season, we get to put a lot of internal energy, external, all the energy into these kiddos, into creating a family unity, right? Like just bringing them all in. And so it kind of gave me permission to, I'm coming from I'll let you go next, but just gave me permission to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to keep the business on like auto. I'm going to maintain it, but we're not going after a big goal in this, this season. And then there will be other seasons and we can, I can pick it up. And so, I have like just different theories about life balance. And for me, I like HIIT training, right? Like high intensity. So this season is all, we're going to go big in the child family, and then, we'll go big in the business on another one. So I'm all about that. That's kind of how I look at it, I guess.
Yeah.
Too.
No, it's very humbling. I think with kids, especially, we tell our staff all the time, you may not be parents, but you help parent hundreds of kids, and you get a lot of experience from that, and can listen better to other people that are not their parents. And it's important to, keep that in mind. So I remember, when we first had Kai, there was just a moment that I just wanted to be like, do you know who we are? Like, do you know what we do? We teach kids how to listen. Like, what's wrong with you? And you can't yell that at your kid, but in your head, you kind of have this mental breakdown of like, okay, like everything I can do for other people's kids, I can't always do for mine. And, we still see that now. He's in kindergarten now, and he just said for the first time, he's like, I think I want to be a karate instructor. And we're like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, like Mr. Sipe, that's what I want to do. And we're like, yeah, like Mr. Sipe, exactly. That's and Mr. Sipe is awesome. And, Kai just doesn't understand, that we're cool like that. But, someday maybe not.
Wow, that's great insight, Seth. Now, you do some other things. I mean, you guys are definitely on the HIIT trail. I mean, y'all are not low intensity. I think maybe when you're sleeping, you're still doing stuff. and we're kind of like that to the same extent. But you run, I mean, literally on your feet. You do marathons, triathlons, Ironmans, all this other stuff, and integrate that all into your passion for fitness and personal growth. Take us down that road, man. Run us down that road a minute. How's that work?
So running is my passion. The triathlons and the Ironmans are what Melanie's great at. But I think that, there are so many great lessons that can be learned, for me personally, at least from running. It's never about what your body can do. It's always about what your brain can do. Running a marathon, mile 21 is always the killer. That's where everyone walks. That's where you have to get mentally tough. But without a doubt, every single person, when they hit mile 25 and a half, and there's half a mile left, they start running. Their body always had more. Your brain just gives up early. So one of the things that we've done, I think, to incorporate that into our schools, for better or for worse, is we have fitness tests for our kids, and we score them, on some simple things like, push-ups and planks and kicks and punches, but we make them run a 5K, and they get graded on their ability to continue to push through that. And we've had 7-8-year-olds run a 5K in 25 minutes, and we have, 12-year-olds who say, oh, this is so hard, I can never do it. And part of what I love about that is when we get to teach them, no, you can, you just don't think you can. And it's definitely, as a business, it's something that we bring it to the table every year. We have people quit every year because they say, I can't get my 5K. And the parents say, it's too hard for my kid. They can't get their 5K. And I feel it's our opportunity to show them, you can absolutely do more than you think you can, but you have to have a reason to do it. And in today's world, I think a lot of times kids don't have a reason to push themselves because they're given the opportunities, whether they worked hard or not. So we try really hard to hold a high standard with them.
Yeah.
Might bite us in the butt sometimes for numbers and clients, but I think it does increase the quality of our black belts. And in the end, I don't think anyone is ever sad that they had to do the test and they finished it. Everyone's always glad they completed the race. And that's the goal of what we do.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna start running those 5Ks.
The knees and hips are gonna work for you there. You got the bionic man thing going on, Dad.
Yeah, but we do have alternates for medical things with swims and bikes and ellipticals and all of that. Yes, some type of fitness test.
That's amazing. That's totally amazing. Totally amazing.
Yeah. So Melanie, kind of as we're looking ahead, you mentioned you're doing fitness. Obviously, you're also doing, like, you're staying fit. Your mom, you're doing coaching. I mean, there's a lot of dreams that you got going on right there, you know, and definitely you're going out there and you're achieving it. Like, how are you getting other women to do that? What are you telling them when it comes to their dreams, how they're pursuing it? Are you just saying you can do it and being the cheerleader? I kind of think you're probably doing more than that, but yeah, just kind of tell everybody, what's that look like?
You know, someone asked me the other day, like, what makes you a great coach? And I think one of like my superpower as a coach is I have a ridiculous amount of belief in myself and in other people. Like, I used to think it was naivety, but I really think it's my superpower of the first, like, I just really believe that anyone like can do it, right? Like, and if there's a desire in you, that it's there for a reason. And then I think equally that I hold them capable to it. And so through my program, we talk, it's all about what you think about you first and foremost, right? And like, what's your, like, where are you getting your identity from? Who do you think you are? And out of that, right? Like just challenging those thoughts, the ones that aren't moving you forward or are moving you forward, and just constantly challenging who you are, what you're capable of, not to say what you're capable of is who you are, right? And so, and then I'm just really a natural cheerleader too. So you were right a little bit.
Now, I like that. I like that, the idea of just believing in yourself. I think that, you know, obviously, I mean, you're in Taekwondo, so I'm sure you did competitions as well, right? When you're a kid.
Yeah.
So, and I was a competitor too, and went pro, did kickboxing, did MMA stuff as well, and jiu-jitsu. And so one of the things that, you know, my coach would always say, like, you gotta believe when you're going in that ring that you're the winner. So if you don't believe when you go in that ring that you're the winner, you're not going to be, right? And I think that comes down to, you know, what the Bible says, that as a man thinketh, so is he, right? And so yeah, it's kind of the same thing. You got to believe in yourself so much, but so many people miss that. They believe that a goal might happen, but they don't believe that they're going to be the one to achieve that goal.
Right.
And that's been something interesting, just working with all kinds of people all over the world. Is like, you have all the tools, but you're not crushing it compared to someone else who doesn't have the tools and is crushing it.
100%. Yeah, no, that's so good. And I just did like a training on kind of like how imposter syndrome, like how that, and it's like, well, imposter syndrome, from my take, is kind of a natural part of growth, right? Like, you have to have the belief first before you have results. And so like it's going, and then the results lag, but there's that journey in the middle, right? But you have to keep the belief strong, and then the results will catch up. But until then, it kind of does feel, you know, awkward. It feels, you know, doubt can come in and all that. So yeah, the brain, right, is just your biggest muscle, and it's your number one asset.
I like how you mentioned that it's like a muscle, because I don't think a lot of people think about it that way. But, you know, there's a lot of things that I've had to overcome in my life, and a lot of thought patterns and beliefs and things like that. And it's, you really can tell when that has atrophied, when you've allowed all those things to impact you. And then you're like, wait a second, I didn't used to have that belief about myself, but where did that come from? Now it's like building a muscle. Like after an injury, I've had lots of different injuries. It's like, whoa, I can't do what I used to do, but I've got to make the decision to start re-engaging, do some physical therapy on that. So yeah, I think that's all really really cool and important to keep in mind. And you guys travel a lot too, right? Like go all over.
So let me tell you something about the brain before we go to the travel.
Yeah, sure. What did you have?
Look, my brain has grown so much. This hair right off.
It pushed the hair out. That's what
Or, you know, it's so the brain does work like that. Now let's get to the travel. What's with Portugal? Come on. If the United States wasn't big enough, you guys, Seth, why did you go to Portugal? Why do y'all have I mean, it's cool, but give me the reasoning behind it, other than I just like to do it and I did it.
Sure. I mean, that's a lot of it, honestly. But I mean, you know, we have a goal for a second citizenship. You know, for me, it's about insurance and backup plans. You know, I love America. You know, we have a great country, and I get scared when we're having huge arguments over Barbie versus Oppenheimer. You know, I think capitalism is banking on division, and anytime there's money involved, you know, obviously America's going to take it and run with it. So So, with that happening, it's just something where we said, hey, what if we have insurance for our house, we have insurance for our car, do we need insurance for what if America became unsafe or for any reason? So that's kind of where the goal of having a second citizenship started. We looked into a few different island communities that allow you to earn citizenships through purchase of property or through visitation. Most people think that citizenship can only be acquired if you live in a country for 6 months out of the year, but there are a few countries that allow it just through purchase of investment. So Portugal was one of those countries. By the time we found Portugal, they were about, I think, 25 days away from closing that window. They had a law that was going into place that said, this is no longer going to be a thing. So we went full to the wall through, it was my full-time job probably for 3 weeks, sending over documents and files, talking to lawyers and different people, and we ended up purchasing a business property in Lisbon. And what it will allow us to do over the next 5 years is we just have to visit Portugal once a year for 7 days, and after 5 years we have the ability to take a citizenship test. It comes with some language things, making sure we're paying our taxes and all of that, but we'll be able to get a second citizenship in Portugal, which would allow our family to have things like universal health care, free college in Europe for our children. We can live anywhere in the EU or anywhere in the islands that the EU hosts, like the British Virgin Islands or Curacao or things like that. So it was just a very attractive, I think, option to have an EU passport in addition to the American passport. So that's kind of what led to it. We've never actually been to Portugal. We traveled a lot, but Portugal is not one of the places we've been.
Wow. So you got citizenship for somewhere you haven't been yet.
Yes. So
wow.
Kind of a side goal that we had, and this seemed like the right opportunity. And kind of coming back to what I said before, this was a fast decision, but it wasn't impulsive. And I think because we've had the discipline to not be impulsive before, we felt confident to make a decision that most people would probably feel would be impulsive.
Yeah, well, that took a lot of I don't know. That took a lot of
yeah, a lot of guts. Yeah, for sure.
But sometimes you don't. When you have knowledge of something, that's sometimes more important than having that something. Because when you have that knowledge of the things that you want, and for you it was a vision or dream, and then it became a vision, and you've never been there, but when you do go, it's going to be what you've seen the pictures, you've seen the lifestyle and stuff like that, so you know what you're going to be going into. So that's awesome. I'll give you a big old claps on that.
We'll see, right? Sometimes there's a fine line between genius and insanity. We'll see.
Yeah, we know what that's all about too. We've seen some of the insanity.
I mean, there's always risk involved. We got our first a check from the property for the rent that it creates, and we're like, okay, we didn't get scammed. Like, we got some money back. We were pretty sure we were good, but there's always a chance, and just knowing what the risks are and working through them.
Yeah. So what's ahead for you guys? I mean, you guys have a couple of, 3 schools. You've got this coaching business. You're pretty much removed from the schools day to day, and just your business owners, and doing coaching. And so what are you thinking that God's going to use you, and how do you see your life moving forward?
From a business standpoint, one of the things that we're very transparent with our team with, now that we're financially retired, we've kind of been in a weird place for me, at least, where I'm like, I don't know if I want to have 0 schools or 50 schools. I can go either way. Like, we've achieved the financial goal of it. So is there a better way for me personally to achieve my mission of helping the youth in America? I do financial training and business coaching like you guys, things like that. But that's kind of I've been swirling between those two things of 0 schools or 50 schools. What should we do?
Yeah.
And I think this year I finally had the aha experience of, well, if I don't care if we have 0 schools, I can swing for the fences. Like, if we go for this and everything goes broke, that was one of the goals anyway. So let's go for it. So our business is currently in the process of creating, making our system simpler, making sure that everything is scalable, making sure that nothing has to do with personality-based, decisions only, but that anyone really can step into it and be at least moderately successful. And then really successful, with the right effort put in. So our goal is to grow the company. I'm saying 50 schools in 15 years. We may absolutely go to 0 somewhere in between there, but we're going to be shooting for 50, and that's the goal that we're trying to. So I'd say from a business standpoint, that's what we're doing. Personally, I've got marathons coming up. Melanie has her fitness goals she'll talk about in a bit. I love running financial seminars for the juniors within our organization. I mentioned that before. So I travel the country when I'm able and just teach on finances for 2 days, teaching, all ages. But I specifically love, the teens to young adults, and to teach them you are in the prime to be successful. You cannot wait until you're married with kids to think about retirement. Take advantage of your younger years now. So I think that's my big goal right now.
Melanie, what about you?
Going from running the businesses with Seth and then running an online coaching business, again, very humbling as far as it's like, okay, like I had that small business thing figured out, and then moving to online, it was just continues to be a big learning curve. And it's like, okay, I'm about a green belt at online business. And so, as it gets hard, right? And just that beginner's mindset again, and just owning your beginnerness, my beginnerness again, as I've struggled, it's like, but there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. I'm just so very confident that this is like the plan and the purpose. And so even on the hard days, it's just like, well, what else would I be doing? And so just continuing to grow my coaching business and really being present with my kiddos and just challenging myself. I'm doing my first half Ironman this year. And so, I used to set bigger, longer goals, not to say that I don't still have dreams and that kind of thing, but sometimes when I do that, just on a personal level, they become my goals and I go rogue from God. And so, so now I'm all about the 12-week. Like I just read at the end of last year, the 12-week year. Is that that's what it's called. And it just really resonates with me. And so it's like, again, about the season. It's like, well, I feel like this is the vision God's given me for the next 12 weeks. We've got some sketches out there, but, just really staying focused on that. And I'm sure he'll tell me when we need to change that. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm really happy and fulfilled, and just continuing to grow that and to do it even better.
Yeah, that's definitely really a good idea. I'm gonna have to get that book, 12-week year. Is that what it's called? 12-week year. Definitely. Yeah. Well, guys, if somebody wants to find you, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on, I think, Facebook, and also Facebook's the easiest place to find me.
Yeah.
Eric Birky, and then Melody's got her own website and everything for her coaching.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My Facebook group is kind of my hub. And so it's called Faith, Freedom, and Fulfillment, personal growth community for women leaders. And my website is melanieberkey.com.
Very cool. Well, guys, thank you again so much for coming on the 7-Figure Secrets podcast. This was definitely an incredible chat. I loved it. Got a lot of good stuff out of it. And we appreciate it very much, guys.
Thank you so much. It was great.